For 500,000 years, Earth drifted through the dark. The blue oceans had boiled away into shallow seas. The forests had turned to dust. The great cities of steel and glass had fallen into broken bones, swallowed by time. Every other race in the galaxy spoke of Earth as a grave, a planet where a strange, violent species had once risen and then vanished without warning. No trace of their voices, no surviving colonies, no living bloodlines, just ruins under a poisoned sky. So when a scavenger fleet of alien explorers cut through the Sol system, they expected to find only silence. They expected to strip metals from forgotten buildings, harvest minerals from a dead core, and then move on. But the moment their scanners touched Earth, everything changed. The surface looked empty. Yes, the continents were cracked. The rivers were dry. But deep below, under mountains, seas, and deserts, the scanners whispered of enormous shapes. They were not stone. They were not natural. They were metal. Thousands of colossal bodies sleeping in caverns so deep, no storm could touch them. At first, the aliens thought it was an error. No machine could endure 500,000 years. But the readings grew stronger the closer they scanned. Energy, weak, faint, but real, still hummed within those buried shapes, and then for the first time in 500,000 years, one of the buried giants stirred. A tremor ran through the mountainside. Ancient steel ground against stone. Dust fell into the valleys. The air itself seemed to shiver. The aliens froze. Their ships locked in orbit, their voices tense. One asked the question they all feared. What kind of species leaves behind warships that do not die? The alien fleet numbered only 7 ships. They were scavenger craft, long and thin, built for cutting through wreckage and stealing from the bones of fallen empires. The crew belonged to the Karik, a wandering people who lived by finding and selling forgotten technology. Their leader was Captain Zor, a creature of grey chitin and 4 sharp eyes. He was not a fool. He had stripped dead worlds before. He had seen traps, weapons, and toxic ruins. But what Earth offered was different. From his command chair, he studied the faint pulses rising from the planet below. The signals came and went like heartbeats. The shapes hidden under the crust stretched for miles. Jor tapped his claws against the metal armrest. "This world should be silent," he said. His voice buzzed through the bridge. "Yet something is still alive." His crew shifted uneasily. They were used to finding scraps, not giants. A younger scavenger spoke up. "Captain, if those machines truly survived for this long, the technology could make us rich. Entire dynasties could fall to buy even one fragment of such a fleet," another snarled. "Or we could all die when those machines wake." Zor considered both. Riches or ruin. For scavengers, there was no middle path. Finally, he ordered 3 ships to descend into low orbit. The scanners burned through the crust, revealing sealed hangar doors beneath mountains, vast chambers carved into stone, and tunnels built with precision no alien tool could match. Everywhere they looked, the same image repeated. Warships, thousands of them, all waiting. The scavengers could not resist. They launched shuttles to the ground. The first team landed near the ruins of what had once been New York City. The skyline was nothing but shattered towers, leaning bones of steel wrapped in vines of stone. The sea had pulled back long ago, leaving dry harbors filled with cracked mud. The aliens moved carefully. Their scanners pointed them not to the ruins above, but to what lay under the ground below. A wide slab of black metal stretched across the base of a mountain. The surface was covered in dust, but its shape was too perfect, too smooth to be natural. The scavengers cleared the dirt. Strange symbols were carved into the edges. Letters from a language none of them knew. They recorded it, sent it back to the ship, and kept digging. Hours passed. Finally, they uncovered a seam, a faint line running through the slab. It was a door, sealed tight by unimaginable pressure. The youngest scavenger reached out with his tool, trying to cut into it. Sparks flew. The tool bent, half melted, useless. The slab remained untouched. They tried again with heavier machines. Blades, lasers, drills. Nothing pierced the surface. The metal drank every strike and laughed at them. Then, without warning, the ground rumbled. The door split down the center. Dust burst upward like a storm. The mountain groaned as machinery hidden for 500,000 years came alive. The scavengers screamed. Some fled back to the shuttle. Others froze, too stunned to move. The door opened wide enough to reveal darkness inside, and from that darkness, a faint blue glow stirred. The glow grew stronger, filling the tunnel beyond the door. Symbols lit up on the walls. Lines of energy surged like veins carrying blood. The air grew heavy, buzzing with power. The scavengers' scanners went wild. Energy spikes jumped higher and higher. Whatever slept below was not just alive. It was awakening. Captain Zor, watching from orbit, stood rigid in his chair. His four eyes widened. His claws clenched. "Pull them out," he ordered. "Now, pull them all out." But the order came too late. From within the cavern, the ground trembled as something colossal shifted. Stone cracked. Dust cascaded like waterfalls. Then the first shape emerged, a wall of metal. Dark, scarred, but whole. A hull longer than a city, rising inch by inch. The scavengers pointed their lights at it, and the beams vanished against the sheer size of the machine. Guns the length of towers jutted out along its sides. Its armor gleamed, as if time itself had failed to touch it. At last a voice rolled out of the cavern. It was not alien. It was not natural. It was human. It spoke in a language the scavengers did not know, but the tone was clear, commanding. Cold, alive. The sound echoed through the valley, through the shuttles, and into orbit. Every alien froze as the voice repeated again, stronger this time, with static rising in its wake. Then the giant ship's engines flared, a blast of ancient fire that split the air. In orbit, panic tore through the scavenger fleet. The crews shouted over one another, "It is alive! It should not be alive!" "Nothing survives that long." Captain Zor silenced them with a single command. "Watch, do not run. Not yet." The colossal warship rose from its cradle, stone shattering around it. It broke free of the mountain like a beast tearing through chains. The air howled as it lifted into the sky. Clouds swirled, lightning sparked, and the ground shook under its engines. The scavengers could not look away. When the ship finally pierced the upper atmosphere, it hovered in silence. Its guns turned, scanning the skies, as if searching for enemies. The scavengers prayed it would not see them, but then their consoles lit up with warnings. The ship was scanning them. Beams of invisible light cut across their hulls. Systems flickered. Engines shut down one by one, and then, once again, the human voice spoke. This time the translation programs caught. Fragments, fleet command. Online, status check incomplete. Awaiting. Human directive. The words chilled every alien. To the bone. The warship did not recognize them as allies. It did not even recognize them as alive. To the ancient machine, they were nothing but intruders, standing where humanity should have been. The Karik were not the first race to hear stories of humans. Long ago, across the galaxy, there had been whispers of a species that burned too bright, too fast. A species that fought wars with fire and iron against enemies no one else dared face. They had vanished before most younger races had risen, leaving only ruins and myths. Now, standing before a warship that had slept for 500,000 years, the scavengers realized the myths were not lies. Humanity had not simply vanished. Humanity had left something behind, not monuments, not ruins, weapons, and those weapons were waking. Captain Zor knew they faced a choice. They could flee now, before the rest of the fleet woke, and hope the warship let them go. Or they could stay and try to claim this ancient treasure, riches beyond imagination, or death beyond memory. His crew looked at him with fear. Some whispered that the warship had already marked them. Running would not save them. Others hissed that touching such power was madness. Jor's four eyes stared at the colossal machine. The hull gleamed in the starlight. The guns turned with precision. The engines burned with power older than any empire alive today. Finally he spoke. "We did not come here to flee. We came here to claim. If humanity is gone, then their weapons belong to the living. And if humanity still lingers somewhere, then we must pray they do not return to find us." The crew shivered. The captain had made his choice. The first ship did not remain alone. Across Earth, other hangars stirred. In the deserts, under the seas, inside mountains, one by one, signals burst to life. Doors cracked open. Lights glowed in the darkness. The war fleet of Earth was breathing again. The scavengers realized too late that they had awakened something far larger than themselves, and as the colossal ships rose from the grave, their voices joined in unison. Fleet awakening sequence initiated. Status check-in. Progress. Awaiting human command. The silent grave of Earth was no longer silent, and the galaxy was about to learn what it meant to wake humanity's forgotten war fleet. The mountain had cracked apart. The cavern was no longer silent. Out of the black hangar rose a warship so vast that the scavengers could barely measure it. Its hull was scarred from battles long forgotten. Its weapons stretched out like claws ready to strike. Its engines burned with ancient fire. Every alien in orbit stared in horror as the human warship floated into the sky. It was not just moving. It was alive. From deep inside the hull, a voice thundered across the atmosphere. The words came in a strange human tongue, yet the meaning was clear. Fleet command online. Awaiting directive. The scavengers froze. Their scanners screamed with warnings. Their engines dimmed under the pressure of strange signals. The warship was watching them, studying them, and then the voice spoke again, louder, clearer. Unknown presence detected. Identify or be classified as hostile. The aliens had seconds to respond. Seconds to decide if they would live or die. On the scavenger flagship, Captain Zor gripped the arms of his chair until his claws dug deep into the metal. His four eyes locked onto the giant vessel, now hovering just above the planet's crust. No other race in the galaxy built ships like this. Its size rivaled cities. Its guns were longer than the Carrick fleet itself. And yet it floated with ease, every motion smooth and deliberate. Jor's crew shouted around him. It scans us, Captain. Our systems are freezing. We must run. But Zor did not run. He stood, mandibles clicking. Open the channel, he ordered. Send a signal of peace. Tell it we mean no harm. The communications officer trembled but obeyed. A signal pulsed out from the Carrick flagship. A universal tone of neutrality used by explorers and merchants alike. For a long moment, there was silence. The giant ship loomed, weapons pointed directly at them. Then the voice returned, signal received. No human presence detected. Intruders classified as unauthorized. The bridge filled with dread. The warship had accepted their signal, but not their existence. To it, only humans mattered. Anything else was an intruder. While the fleet panicked above, a small alien team remained near the mountain cavern where the warship had risen. Against all orders, they entered the open hangar left behind when the giant ship launched. Inside, they found corridors of steel lit by faint blue light. Symbols lined the walls, written in the strange human language. The air smelled of dust and cold metal. The deeper they walked, the more the ship itself seemed alive. Pipes hummed, doors slid open on their own. Voices whispered from the walls, recordings of old human commanders giving orders in battle. One scavenger trembled as the echoes played. These humans never left their ships, he whispered. Their voices are still here. At the heart of the corridor stood a massive chamber. Dozens of pods lined the walls. Each was empty, glass shattered, dust filling the space where once something had slept. But at the center of the chamber glowed a console, still pulsing with power. The alien team approached cautiously. The screen lit up, symbols flashing across it. Then the console spoke. Biometric scan failed. No human detected, warning unauthorized entry. The floor shook. The walls roared with mechanical sound. The scavengers screamed as turrets unfolded from the ceiling, targeting them. Above, the scavenger fleet saw flashes from the mountain. Bursts of light, explosions echoing in the dust. Captain Jaw slammed his claws against the railing. They triggered something. "Pull them out!" But the link with the ground team went silent. Only static answered, then the warship's weapons moved. Gigantic cannons rotated slowly, locking onto the scavenger fleet in orbit. The ship was no longer curious. It was preparing for war. Panic spread like fire. The scavenger ship split formation, engines roaring. Some screamed to retreat, others demanded to fight. Jor gave a single order. "Halt, do not fire, do not provoke it further." His words calmed no one. A beam of light shot from the human ship. It did not strike. Instead, it cut past the scavenger fleet, slicing space with precision, stopping just short of their lead ship. A warning shot. The voice thundered once more. "Unauthorized vessels detected. Leave Sol system immediately. Non-compliance will result in destruction." The scavenger fleet gathered into tight orbit. Far enough to avoid immediate destruction, but close enough to keep scanning the giant. Inside the flagship, Jor called his council. "We face something older than empires," he said. "This ship is not alone. We have seen more signals rising from the planet. If one ship awakens, the rest will follow," one of his lieutenants hissed in fear. "Then we must flee now, before the skies are filled with them." Another slammed his claw. "No, think of the power. Think of the wealth. A single piece of this ship could buy kingdoms." "We cannot walk away," Jor listened. He weighed greed against survival. The warship floated in silence beyond the window, vast as a shadow across the stars. Finally he spoke. "We will test it. We will send probes. If we can learn its nature, perhaps we can claim it. If it strikes, we retreat." The council reluctantly agreed. Small probes launched from the scavenger fleet, buzzing like insects toward the giant warship. They circled, scanning the hull, recording every detail. The results were beyond belief. The armor was not just strong, it was layered with a material unknown to every database. Energy fields shimmered across it, stronger than any shield the scavengers had ever seen. The weapons were worse. Cannons the size of mountains, launchers built to fire storms of missiles, beams capable of splitting moons. One probe crept closer to a crack in the hull. Inside, it caught sight of something chilling. Thousands of more machines waiting in racks. Drones, fighters, automated weapons, each one slumbering, ready to be unleashed. Then the probe's signal cut. A flash of light, and it was gone. The warship spoke again. "Unauthorized scan detected. Warning, leave now." Jor's crew shook with terror, but Jor's eyes gleamed. The ship was powerful beyond imagining, yes, but it was still alone, at least for now. The scavengers watched in awe as the giant ship began to move. Its weapons retracted. Its engines burned brighter. Panels slid open across its hull, releasing smaller craft, unmanned fighters that darted through the atmosphere before returning. The warship was testing itself. After 500,000 years, it was making sure its systems still worked. Every motion was perfect. Every weapon aligned with precision. Not a single piece of the ship seemed damaged by time. It was a predator, stretching its muscles after a long sleep. One scavenger whispered what they all feared. "If one ship is this strong, what will happen when the entire fleet awakens?" As the giant tested its guns, the scavenger's scanners caught something new. A pulse of energy, faint but steady, rising from deep within the oceans. Another warship was stirring. Jor felt his courage falter. His greed no longer burned as bright. One was dangerous enough. Two might be unstoppable, and if the entire fleet rose, no power in the galaxy could stand against them. The scavengers had awakened the first guardian of Earth. The rest would not stay silent for long. That night, as the ships orbited the broken planet, Captain Jor stood alone in the viewing chamber. He stared down at Earth, watching faint lights flicker beneath the crust. The fleet was waking. He knew it. He thought of riches, of power, of his people rising higher than any other. He thought of fear, of being hunted across the stars by machines that never died. And then he made his choice. "We will not flee," he said to the empty chamber. "We will stay. We will see what humanity left behind. And if we are clever, if we are bold, we will take it for ourselves." His words sealed the fate of every scavenger in the fleet. At dawn, the colossal warship rose higher into orbit. It circled the planet once, then drifted above the ruins of ancient cities, as if remembering what it had once protected. The scavengers followed at a distance, holding their breath each time the guns turned their way. Finally, the ship spoke once more. Systems check complete. Unit operational. Awaiting human command. But there were no humans left. The ship floated in silence, waiting for masters who would never return. The scavengers did not realize it yet. But the awakening was not just a test of engines and weapons. The ship was also testing them, watching them, deciding if they would be allowed to live. And deep below Earth's oceans, another giant stirred. The first awakening was only the beginning. The warship floated in silence above Earth. Its engines pulsed with steady power. Its weapons pointed in every direction, sharp as a predator's teeth. Then, without warning, the scavengers heard voices. They did not come through the air. They came through the comms, through the scanners, through the very metal of their ships. Human voices. The voices were not random sounds. They were orders. Commands spoken with calm authority, as if the speakers were still alive. Target acquired. Prepare fire control. Squadron Delta, flank left. All batteries. Stand ready. The words rolled through the scavenger fleet, chilling them to the core. The humans were gone, yet their commands still echoed. It was as if the warship carried their ghosts inside it. The aliens whispered in fear. If the voices were recordings, then they were fragments of a war long ago. But if they were not recordings, if the ship itself was speaking with the memory of humanity, then something worse was true. The dead still commanded the living. Captain Jor made a bold decision. He ordered a new team down into the warship. The first team had vanished, cut off by defenses. But this time he chose his best. Warriors and technicians, not just scavengers. The shuttle descended, engines fighting against the pull of Earth's heavy atmosphere. It landed inside the giant warship's open bay. The moment the team stepped inside, the bay doors sealed behind them. The shuttle was trapped. The team leader, a scarred alien named Drask, pushed forward. The air was cold, heavy with dust, but still breathable. Strange machines hummed along the walls. The corridors stretched endlessly, lit by blue-white lights that flickered like dying stars. And then the voices came again. Louder now. Defensive perimeter compromised. Deploy countermeasures. Casualties acceptable. Mission priority remains unchanged. The aliens froze. Their translator units worked, but the words carried a tone no machine could erase. The tone of humans who had fought until the very end. Drask raised his weapon. These are not ghosts, he said. These are machines repeating old battles. But even he felt doubt. The team climbed through endless corridors until they reached a chamber that looked different from the rest. It was vast, lined with rows of empty chairs and shattered consoles. Screens flickered, displaying maps of stars none of the scavengers recognized. At the center stood a tall chair, larger than the others. The command chair. When the team approached, the entire room came alive. Screens blazed with light. Symbols scrolled across them. Alarms howled, and then the command chair spoke. Command deck active. Awaiting Admiral authorization. The alien staggered back. The voice was human, but deeper, stronger, as if it came from the core of the ship itself. Drask hissed. There are no admirals left. The ship disagreed, the chair lit with a shimmer of blue light. Slowly a figure appeared above it. Not a living being, but a projection. A human. The figure wore a uniform torn and bloodstained. His face was hard, his eyes sharp. He looked directly at the aliens, as though he could see them. The aliens froze. This was no simple recording. The figure spoke. Unauthorized presence detected. State your command authority. No one moved. No one spoke. The figure's eyes narrowed. No response detected. Intruders confirmed. Security measures engaged. Turrets slid out from the ceiling. Drones dropped from hidden racks. The aliens raised their weapons in panic. Drask shouted over the comm. This is Captain Drask of the Carrick. We are explorers, not enemies. The figure tilted his head. Species not recognized. Authorization denied. The drones powered up. The chamber erupted in chaos. The drones swarmed forward, weapons blazing. The aliens returned fire, energy bolts flashing across the command deck. Drask cut through 2 drones with precise blasts, but more replaced them. The turrets rained fire from above. One alien screamed as he was dragged into the shadows by a machine. Another fell under a barrage of plasma. Drask roared, "We cannot win this. Fall back. Fall back now." The team fought their way out of the command deck, leaving scorched wreckage behind. But the voice of the Ghost Admiral followed them. "You cannot escape. This ship was built to hunt. It will not rest until all intruders are purged." The words echoed through every corridor, through every wall. The aliens fled deeper into the warship, but no matter where they went, the Ghost followed. Cornered, the surviving aliens stumbled into a smaller chamber lined with sealed pods. Unlike the command deck, this room was quiet. The machines here glowed with faint light. One of the technicians rushed forward, activating a console. To their surprise, the console did not attack them. Instead, it displayed images, scenes of war, human fleets clashing with an enemy the aliens had never seen. Ships the size of mountains firing beams of light across burning skies. Soldiers in armored suits fighting on ruined worlds. The images scrolled endlessly. Victory after victory, defeat after defeat. And then came the final image, Earth itself burning. A massive enemy fleet surrounding the planet. Human ships falling in flames, the technician gasped. They fought to the very end. But they did not die. They hid their fleet here. Drask's eyes widened. This was no grave. This was a fortress. A trap waiting to spring. Above in orbit, the scavenger fleet trembled as another signal pulsed from Earth. The oceans split as something vast rose from the depths. Another warship. This one was smaller than the first, but still terrifying in size. Water streamed from its hull as it tore free from the sea. Its engines roared as it climbed into the sky. The two ships aligned, one above the other, like wolves circling prey, and once again the voices came. Unit 2 operational. Fleet status rising. Awaiting command. The scavengers screamed in panic. One ship was unbearable. Two were doom. And yet the signals from the planet told them more were coming. Captain Zor clenched his claws. This is not awakening. This is resurrection. Back inside the first warship, the alien survivors stumbled into yet another chamber. This one was different from the rest. No consoles glowed, no turrets fired. Only silence filled the air. At the far end stood a wall carved with human words. Symbols glowed faintly as if written in fire. As the aliens approached, the wall itself spoke. Humanity has not ended. Humanity has only hidden. The fleet remains. The war continues. The survivors trembled. The voice was not the Ghost Admiral. It was something deeper. The ship itself speaking, Drask whispered to his team. These are not echoes. These are not ghosts. The ships themselves remember. They carry the minds of their commanders inside them. The others stared at him in horror. If that was true, then the scavengers were not facing empty machines. They were facing the living memory of an entire species, and those memories still wanted war. Drask knew they could not survive much longer. The drones hunted them at every corner. The Ghost Admiral's voice stalked their every move. They raced back toward the hangar bay, weapons blazing, cutting down drones as they came. At last they saw their shuttle, still sealed, waiting in the bay. They sprinted for it, firing wildly to hold off their pursuers. But as they reached the shuttle, the bay doors opened. The void of space yawned before them. The shuttle trembled, locked in place by invisible force. The voice of the Ghost Admiral thundered once more. No intruder escapes. Humanity's fleet belongs to humanity alone. The scavengers screamed as the gravity shifted. The bay pulled them forward, dragging them toward open space. At the last moment, Drask slammed his claws onto the shuttle's emergency override. The engines roared to life. The shuttle broke free, hurtling out into the stars. Behind them, the bay doors sealed shut. The warship returned to silence, but the Ghost Admiral's voice lingered in their comms. You cannot run far. The fleet is awake. The war never ended. The shuttle docked with the scavenger flagship. Drask and the few survivors stumbled out, battered and broken. Captain Zor demanded answers. Drask's voice shook as he spoke. The humans are not gone. They live inside the machines. Their admirals, their soldiers, their war. All of it is still here. The crew stared in silence. terror flooding their faces. Jor looked once more at the two giant warships circling Earth. His mandibles clicked with unease. "We have awakened their ghosts," he said. "And now those ghosts will decide our fate." The scavengers thought the nightmare was ending. They thought the ships would stop it too. But then the scanners screamed again from deep beneath the crust. Under deserts, mountains, and ruins, thousands of signals lit up at once. The ground shook across the planet. Caverns split. Oceans churned. The skies burned with light. The war fleet of Earth was no longer sleeping. It was rising, and with every awakening, more voices filled the air. Unit 3. Online. Unit 4 operational. Unit 5 ready. The ghosts of humanity had returned, and they were preparing for war. The scavengers thought the nightmare had reached its peak when two warships rose from Earth. But they were wrong. The ground itself was now breaking. The desert split into glowing cracks. The mountains shook until their peaks shattered. The oceans boiled as titanic shapes moved beneath the water. Then the sky tore open with fire. One by one, warships burst from their hidden tombs. Colossal giants pushed out of the crust, tearing free from stone and soil. Entire valleys collapsed as metal titans lifted into the air. From the seas, ships larger than islands rose, water cascading off their armored hulls. The scavengers watched in terror as the black void above Earth filled with shapes of steel and flame. It was not 2 ships anymore. It was not 10. It was hundreds, thousands. An entire fleet 500,000 years old was returning to life, and every ship spoke in the same cold human voice. Unit active. Systems restored. Awaiting command. The sky above Earth was no longer empty. It was an armada awakening, the aliens whispered in horror. "We woke the dead." Aboard the scavenger flagship, chaos reigned. Scanners shrieked as more signals appeared every second. Dots covered the displays until the screens were nothing but light. The alien crew cried out in disbelief. Captain Zor gripped the command rail, his claws digging deep into the metal. His eyes widened as ship after ship rose from Earth, their engines glowing like suns. "This is no fleet," he whispered. "This is a graveyard turned into a weapon." His second officer stumbled forward. "Captain, what do we do? We cannot face this. We cannot run either. Their weapons will burn us from the stars." Jor's mandibles clicked in rage and fear. For scavengers, every discovery was supposed to mean wealth, technology, and power. But this was no treasure. This was a curse. The human warships did not drift aimlessly. They moved with terrifying order. The largest ship, a titan so vast its shadow swallowed the sky, lit up with thousands of lights. Smaller ships formed into wings around it. Cruisers and frigates slid into formations like soldiers, falling into rank. The scavengers realized something horrifying. The fleet was not lost. It was not broken. It was waiting. Now, after 500,000 years, it was following orders once more. From the flagship came the voice of the Ghost Admiral. His tone was steady, commanding, alive. Fleet status confirmed. Primary systems restored. Secondary systems awaiting command. Standing by for human leadership. The aliens shook with fear. The voice was not asking them. It was not inviting them. It was ignoring them entirely. They were nothing. Shadows in the presence of giants. In his command chamber, Captain Zor gathered his officers. The crew argued, voices sharp with panic. "We must flee before they destroy us." One cried. "Flee where?" "They will hunt us down." Another shouted. "We should try to communicate," a third said. "Maybe they will see us as allies." Zor slammed his claws against the table. The sound silenced them. "You fools. Do you not understand? These ships remember war. They do not see allies. They do not see scavengers. They see intruders." His words hung heavy in the air. The officers lowered their eyes. For once, there was no answer. Suddenly, the ship's comms screamed. A signal cut through every frequency, every channel, piercing the fleet with its strength. It was not directed at the aliens. It was directed at something else. The voice of the Ghost Admiral thundered. "To all human units across the stars, the Earth fleet has returned. The war continues. Respond." The scavenger crew froze in horror. If any humans were left in the galaxy, this signal would reach them. And if none remained, the ships would still wait. Wait for centuries. Wait for millennia. Waiting until their commanders came home. The aliens realized something worse. The fleet was not just awakening. It was calling. As the scavenger fleet trembled, one of the smaller human ships broke formation. Its guns swiveled, locking onto a scavenger vessel at the edge of orbit. The scavenger captain screamed over comms, "They are targeting us!" Before anyone could answer, a beam of energy brighter than the sun lanced through the void. The scavenger ship did not explode. It simply ceased to exist, vaporized in a single instant. The Ghost Admiral's voice followed. "Non-human presence detected. Withdraw or be purged." The scavenger fleet shook. The humans had fired a warning shot. One shot to tell them what would happen if they stayed. But Zor knew the truth. If they fled, the humans might still hunt them. They were already marked. Deep within the human flagship, the few scavenger survivors who had escaped from the ship's belly still hid. Drask, the scarred warrior, led them through ruined corridors, hunted by drones at every turn. They stumbled into a chamber filled with strange pods. The pods were not weapons. They were not machines. They were human shapes, soldiers, thousands of them, their bodies preserved in crystal-like sarcophagi. Drask's voice shook. "They are not dead. They are sleeping." The ships were only the first. The survivors stared in terror. If the fleet was terrifying, what would happen if these humans awoke as well? The fleet was not only steel, it was flesh and blood. Back in orbit, Captain Zor faced a choice that could break his people. He could order retreat, fleeing into the void, hoping the humans did not follow. Or he could stay, attempt to capture fragments of the technology, and risk annihilation. But there was a third option. He could try to awaken more. He could force the fleet to reveal its secrets by provoking it. The idea burned in his mind. Dangerous, insane, but the lure of power was strong. Jor whispered to himself, "If I control even one ship, just one, my people will rule the stars." His officers stared in disbelief. "You would gamble all our lives for greed?" One demanded. Jor turned, his eyes burning. "This is no gamble. This is destiny. The humans are gone. Their fleet is masterless, and I will take it." Jor ordered his fleet to spread out, to scan for weak points in the formation. His ships moved like insects around giants, probing, testing. The human fleet responded instantly. Every warship turned as one. Weapons locked. Engines roared. The Ghost Admiral's voice filled the stars. Hostile intent confirmed. Commencing purge. The scavengers had crossed the line. The sky above Earth erupted. Beams of energy cut across the void like blades of fire. Human warships unleashed their fury, striking with precision and power that shattered the scavenger fleet. One alien cruiser was torn in half. Another spun into the atmosphere, burning until it smashed into the ocean. A third tried to flee, but was speared by missiles that never missed. The scavenger fleet screamed in terror. They fired back, but their weapons were nothing. Like arrows against mountains, Captain Jor's flagship trembled under the onslaught. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Crew screamed as systems failed one after another. Jor's voice rose above the chaos. "Hold! Do not break! We will not die without learning their secrets." But deep down he knew. They were insects in the path of a storm. Just as it seemed the battle was already lost, the Earth itself spoke again. New signals burst from below. More warships rose, tearing through sky and sea. The scavengers gasped as the armada doubled in size before their eyes. The humans had not yet revealed their full strength. The Ghost Admiral declared, "Reinforcements active. Enemy presence will be eradicated." The scavengers' hope turned to ash. This was not a fleet. This was a world waking for war. As the scavenger fleet burned, as their screams filled the void, a final signal cut through the battle. It was not the Ghost Admiral. It was not the ships. It was something deeper. A voice spoke in human tongue, clear and alive. "This is Admiral Kalen of Earth's last fleet. Identify yourselves." The aliens froze. It was impossible. The humans were supposed to be gone. dead for 500,000 years. But a living voice had spoken, and now the galaxy would learn the truth. The scavenger fleet burned in the skies above Earth. Ships cracked apart. Engines exploded. Screams filled every channel. The human armada moved with cold precision, each strike clean and final. The scavengers had no chance. Then, through the chaos, a voice spoke. It was human. But unlike the Ghost Admiral, this was not a memory. This was alive. This is Admiral Kalen of Earth's last fleet. Identify yourselves. The words cut through the firestorm like a blade. The scavengers froze. The alien crews whispered in shock. Impossible. Humanity was gone. Dead for 500,000 years. Their ships were supposed to be empty relics. Their commanders only echoes trapped in steel. But this was no echo. This was a living soul. A human was speaking to them now. The human fleet stopped its fire. The beams of death cut off. The scavenger fleet, broken and limping, floated in silence. Wrecks drifted. Flames burned in the void. Thousands of alien lives had been erased in minutes. Yet the warships of Earth did not finish them. They waited. Engines thrummed. Weapons glowed. But no more shots came. It was as if the entire armada held its breath, waiting for one thing, the answer to the Admiral's call. On the bridge of his shattered flagship, Captain Zor stood frozen. The voice still rang in his ears, a living human. After all this time, after 500,000 years, his officers stared at him with wide eyes. "Captain," one whispered, "do you hear it too? This cannot be real. This must be another ghost." Zor shook his head slowly. His claws trembled as they gripped the command rail. No ghost speaks like that. No ghost halts a fleet mid-battle. This is command. His second officer leaned forward, voice sharp with fear. "Then we are doomed. If humans live, if they command this fleet, we are nothing." Zor's mandibles clicked. Or it means something else. It means the humans were never gone. It means they hid. And if they hid, we may learn why. His voice lowered, dangerous. "And if I can speak to this Admiral, I may learn more than why. I may learn how to take his power." Across the broken scavenger fleet, no one dared speak. No one dared answer. At last, Zor opened a channel. His voice was steady, though his insides churned. "This is Captain Zor of the Karik scavenger fleet. We mean no harm. We came seeking knowledge." The reply came instantly. Calm, cold, human, unauthorized presence confirmed. "You trespass upon Earth's grave. Why have you disturbed what was never yours?" The scavengers shivered at the tone. The Admiral's voice carried judgment. It carried authority. It carried the weight of a species that had once ruled war. Zor forced his voice steady. We did not know. We found ruins. We sought only to learn. We are explorers." Silence followed. The human fleet did not move. Then the Admiral spoke again. "Explorers do not bring weapons to graves." Zor flinched. The Admiral had seen everything. Far below, within the vast halls of the flagship, Drask and the other alien survivors still crept through dark corridors. They heard the Admiral's voice echo through the steel walls, though they could not see him. They had seen preserved soldiers. They had seen drones hunting like predators. Now they realized something far worse. The Admiral was not simply a voice. He was here, somewhere inside this ship, alive, Drask whispered to his team. "If the Admiral is real, then the humans are not extinct. They are waiting to return." The survivors shuddered. If even one Admiral lived, how many more might still sleep? A moment later, the scavenger flagship's screen blazed with light. The image of Admiral Kalen appeared. He was tall, armored in a black uniform, his hair grey at the edges, but his eyes sharp, alive, burning with fire. He looked at Zor as if he were a child, as if the entire scavenger fleet were insects. "You stand before the fleet of Earth," he said, "the last defenders of humanity. We endured when the galaxy thought us broken. We waited when the stars forgot our name. And now you, intruders, have awakened us." Zor swallowed hard. "We did not know, Admiral. We did not mean offense." Kalen's eyes narrowed. "Then you will leave. Leave now and carry this warning to your kind. Earth is not yours. Humanity is not gone. And if the galaxy comes seeking what is ours, it will burn." The scavenger officers quaked with fear. But Zor's greed flared stronger than ever. Zor leaned closer to the screen, his voice low and desperate. Admiral, how did you survive? No species endures 500,000 years. No fleet waits so long. Tell me your secret. For the first time, Kalen's eyes flickered with something other than fire. They flickered with sorrow. You do not want that answer, but Zor pressed harder. Tell me, was it machines? Was it immortality? How does one command a fleet across the death of ages? Kalen's face hardened. We endured by sacrifice, by choices no alien could understand, by binding our souls to the steel of our ships. We are not merely living. We are memory and blood joined forever. The scavenger crew gasped. They understood at last. The Ghost Admiral was no ghost. He was part of this admiral. Part of the humans who had bound themselves to their machines. The humans had become their warships. Kalen's gaze sharpened. Zor of the Scavengers, if you truly came for knowledge, then prove it. Your fleet is broken. Your people scream in fear. But if you would live, you must earn it. You must face a test, Zor hesitated. What kind of test? Kalen's voice thundered. Not all who come to Earth may leave. Those who remain must show respect. Those who fail are destroyed. Zor's officers cried out in panic. Captain, do not agree. We cannot win their games. But Zor silenced them. Greed and ambition burned in his chest. If he could survive this test, perhaps he could learn more. Perhaps he could steal what the humans had kept hidden. He lifted his chin. I accept. The human fleet shifted. Space itself seemed to tighten as the ships moved into new formations. A circle of warships surrounded the scavenger flagship. Weapons glowed, but they did not fire. Kalen's voice boomed. You will survive 5 strikes. If your ship endures, you may live. If not, your people are erased, the scavenger crew screamed. 5 strikes from ships that could erase worlds. It was madness, but Zor did not back down. He roared at his crew. Prepare shields! Brace for impact! The first beam came. White fire lanced from a human cruiser, smashing into the scavenger flagship. The ship shuddered, shields flaring, metal screaming. The second strike followed. The hull split in places. Fires erupted. The crew panicked, but Zor's voice cut through them. Hold! We must hold! The third strike hit. Consoles exploded. Bodies were flung across the bridge. By the fourth, half the ship was dead. Oxygen bled into the void. Flames raged unchecked. When the fifth came, the shields collapsed entirely. The beam tore through the flagship, slicing deep, but somehow, against all odds, the ship still floated, crippled, dying, but alive. Zor stood tall, blood dripping from his wounds. His eyes burned with triumph. We survived, he rasped. Kalen's face returned to the screen. He studied the broken scavenger ship in silence. At last, he spoke. You live, barely. You are not worthy of humanity's secrets. But you are worthy of a message. Zor's mandibles twitched. And what message is that? Kalen's eyes blazed. Tell your galaxy this. Earth is not broken. Humanity is not dead. We are awake. And if war comes again, we will answer. The human fleet roared as one. Engines thundered. Weapons gleamed. The scavengers shrank back in fear. The message was clear. Humanity had returned. The scavenger flagship limped away, dragging its broken survivors into the stars. Behind them, Earth burned with the glow of the Armada. But as they fled, another signal burst from Earth. Not a call, not a threat, a map, a star map sent into the galaxy, broadcasting the position of Earth's fleet to anyone who could hear. Drask, still hiding inside the human flagship, whispered in dread. They are calling the others. They are calling enemies long forgotten. The war is coming back, and far away across the stars. Powers old and new turned their eyes toward the signal. The galaxy had thought humanity gone forever. Now it would learn the truth. Across the galaxy, the stars carried a message. It came as a burst of power, ripping through every frequency, every channel, every world that had ears to hear. It was not a whisper. It was a roar. The message was clear, carried in a human voice that had slept 500,000 years. This is Admiral Kalen of Earth. The fleet lives. The war continues. The signal carried coordinates. The signal carried fire, and everywhere it was heard, the galaxy trembled. In the halls of empires, rulers froze. In the shadows of pirate fleets, captains cursed in fear. On worlds where humans were spoken of only in myths, people fell to their knees, unsure if they prayed to gods or devils. 500,000 years of silence had ended in a single breath. Humanity was awake. On the core world of Tyrannus, the Galactic Council gathered. Dozens of species filled the great chamber, their voices a storm of panic. "The humans are gone," one shouted. "This must be a trick." "No trick speaks with a living voice," another replied. "If they live, then none of us are safe." The council leader, a scaled being with eyes like molten gold, struck the floor with his staff. Silence fell. "You all remember what humanity was," he said. "You all remember the wars, the fleets, the fire that burned across the stars, the chamber filled with uneasy whispers. Every species remembered whether they admitted it or not. Humanity had been the scourge and the shield of the galaxy. They had fought wars no one else dared fight. They had built ships that shook worlds, and then they had vanished. Now they were back. The leader's voice dropped low. "If the fleet of Earth has returned, then the balance of power is broken. We must decide. Do we prepare for alliance or for war?" Not all chose caution. On the fringes of the galaxy, the great warlords laughed. One, a creature of bone and metal, slammed his fist upon a war table. 500,000 years? Their ships are rust. Their warriors are dust. We will claim their fleet for ourselves. Another, a vast insect queen, hissed with hunger. The humans bound their souls to machines. Then their machines shall be our harvest. Armies gathered. Pirates sharpened their blades. Mercenaries whispered of fortunes beyond counting. The scavengers had found the fleet first. But now the whole galaxy knew, and the vultures were coming. On peaceful planets where farmers tilled soil and traders sold wares, the reaction was different. Old stories resurfaced. Stories of humans who had once walked among the stars. Some said they had been monsters. Others said they had been saviors. Children whispered the name of Earth like a curse. Elders spoke it like a prayer, but all agreed on one thing. If humanity was truly back, the galaxy would never be the same again. Far from the council and the warlords, the survivors of the scavenger fleet drifted through the void. Their ships were crippled, their numbers halved, their hopes shattered. Captain Zor sat in silence on his ruined bridge. His body was scarred, his mind burned by what he had seen. He had faced the test of the Admiral. He had survived, but his victory felt like ash. The humans had let him live not because he was strong, but because they wanted him to carry their message. He was their witness. Their warning, his officers looked at him with fear, not respect, fear. They knew his obsession had brought them to the edge of extinction. Jor stared into the void, his claws shaking. "I have seen the truth," he whispered. "The galaxy will kneel or burn, and I will be the one to choose which." But deep in his heart, he knew even that dream was hollow. Against the humans, even his ambition was nothing. Within the massive human flagship, Drask and the other scavenger survivors still hid. They had seen the pods of preserved soldiers. They had heard the Admiral's voice echo through the steel walls. Now they saw more. The preserved soldiers were not the only ones. There were chambers filled with minds. Not bodies, but machines holding thought. Thousands, maybe millions, of human consciousness bound in code and fire. Drask realized the full truth. The humans had not simply built ships. They had poured their very souls into them. The fleet was not only metal. It was humanity itself, and it was awake. On the command deck of the flagship, Admiral Kalen stood alone. His image burned across countless ships, his voice carried to the stars. Yet inside, he was weary. He remembered the last war, the enemy that had come for Earth, the endless battles, the fire that had devoured his people. He remembered the decision to bind humanity to steel, to become memory and machine, soul and ship. It had saved them. It had damned them. Now the galaxy knew they lived, and Kalen wondered if his choice had only doomed the stars anew. Far beyond the known worlds, in the dark corners of forgotten space, something else stirred. The signal of Earth had not only reached the living, it had reached those who had once fought humanity long ago, in a shattered system where stars no longer burned, ships older than empires awoke. Their designs were alien beyond imagination, twisted and sharp. The ancient enemy had heard the call, and they hungered for revenge. In every corner of the galaxy, the signal echoed, armies mobilized. Fleets prepared, spies whispered. Traders changed their routes. Entire worlds trembled. The galaxy was not the same place it had been a day before. Humanity had returned, and their shadows stretched across every star. But no one yet knew what the humans wanted. Were they saviors returned, or conquerors reborn? The only certainty was this: war was coming. On the scavenger flagship, technicians still scanned the signal that had shaken the galaxy. At first they thought it was only a voice and coordinates, but deep within, hidden under layers of code, was something more. A second message, encrypted, ancient, human. When they cracked it open, their screens lit with words that froze their blood. Enemy fleets detected. Humanity is not alone. Prepare defenses, the scavengers gasped. The message was not a boast. It was not a call to allies. It was a warning. Humanity had not only awakened itself, it had awakened the enemy they had once fought. The war was not about to begin. It had already returned. The stars grew dark. Across the farthest reaches of the galaxy, something vast and ancient stirred. It had waited in silence for 500,000 years, biding its time, hidden in the cold void where light dared not travel. Now the signal of Earth had awakened not only humanity's forgotten war fleet, but also the enemy they had once fought to extinction. The shadow fleets rose again. They were not like any living race. They were not flesh, not spirit, not machine in the way humans were machine. They were hunger given shape, war given form. The galaxy thought humanity was the danger. They were wrong. The true enemy had returned. Inside the human flagship, Admiral Kalen stood before a holomap filled with fire. His officers, both machine and mind, gathered around. They saw the signal bounce across the galaxy. They saw the warlords gathering fleets, the council debating alliances, the pirates sharpening their claws. But most of all, they saw the stirrings beyond known space. Red markers appeared like wounds on the map. Systems thought long dead flickered with hostile activity. One officer turned to Kalen, his voice sharp with unease. "It is them." After all this time, Kalen's expression hardened. He had seen this enemy before. He had watched them consume worlds, strip planets down to ash, devour civilizations like beasts at a feast. "They were never gone," he said. "We buried them under fire and steel, but we never destroyed them. Now they rise again." The crew fell silent. Humanity's greatest fear had come true. On the edge of the spiral arm, a small mining colony went dark. At first, it seemed like a storm had hit. Then the distress signal reached neighboring systems. No storm could erase an entire planet in a single hour. When rescuers arrived, they found nothing. No cities, no people, only ash. The scanners picked up movement in the upper atmosphere. Black shapes, sharp as knives, swarmed like locusts. Ships but alive. Metal that pulsed like veins. Weapons that hissed like predators. The rescuers fired once. They did not fire again. The enemy fleet tore them apart in silence, leaving only drifting wrecks. The galaxy had its first proof. Humanity's old enemy had returned. And they were hungry. News spread faster than light. In the council chambers of Tyrannus, leaders shouted in fear. "This cannot be." They were myths. No. Humanity's warning was true. Some demanded immediate alliance with the humans. Others screamed that joining humanity meant joining death. The warlords argued louder still. Many refused to believe in the enemy's return, calling it a human trick to reclaim power. Yet even they felt the tremor of fear in their hearts. On small worlds, people hid in bunkers. On trading routes, ships vanished into the void. The galaxy's peace had ended. Captain Zor, still alive but broken, sat in silence aboard his crippled flagship. His crew stared at him with hate. They had lost everything, chasing the myth of the human fleet. But now the myth had become truth. Jor's voice cracked as he spoke. The humans did not return to conquer. They returned because the enemy has come back. We were pawns, witnesses, messengers. One officer spat at him. Then what are we now, Captain? Corpses waiting to die? Jor's claws clenched. A strange smile twisted his face. No, we will be more. We will stand with them, or we will be consumed. Either way, the galaxy will remember the name of Zor. Yet in his heart, he wondered if even survival was still possible. Admiral Kalen stood once again before his fleet. His voice carried through the massive steel halls, into the minds of every soul that lived within the ships. 500,000 years ago we fought them. We bled for every world. We burned our own skies to stop them. But we did not finish them. Now they rise again. His gaze hardened. We are humanity. We are not dust. We are not shadows. We are steel. And once again we will fight. The fleet roared in response. Human voices, human wills, bound in metal, echoed through the stars. The galaxy had been warned. Humanity would not run. The enemy fleets pushed deeper into known space. A line of small defense outposts stood in their path. The defenders were not strong. They were merchants, miners, scattered soldiers from minor worlds. Their ships were old, their weapons weak, but they stood their ground. For hours they fought against the black swarm. Beams of light cut across the void. Explosions tore the dark. One by one their ships fell. The swarm closed in, tearing through steel, ripping through shields. Then, just as the last outpost was about to fall, a shadow larger than worlds dropped from hyperspace. It was the flagship of Earth. The human fleet emerged in silence, steel titans waking to war. Cannons lit like suns. Missiles roared like thunder. The swarm met fire, and for the first time in 500,000 years it broke. The humans had returned to battle. Even as the enemy fell, Kalen's mind was troubled. Their attacks were brutal but reckless, their numbers vast but uncoordinated. This was not the full force. He knew their tactics too well. The enemy never struck with their true heart first. They tested, probed, fed on weakness. The attacks now were only the beginning. Somewhere out there, hidden in the void, the true swarm waited. Kalen whispered to himself, "This is not the war. This is the opening." Word of the human fleet's victory spread like wildfire. For the first time, the galaxy's fear turned to hope. Small worlds began sending messages to Earth, begging for protection. Warlords who once mocked humanity now considered uneasy alliances. Even the Council of Tyrannus debated surrendering power to Kalen, but hope was fragile. It flickered like a candle in the wind. For every world that cheered, another whispered in fear. If the humans failed, no one would survive. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for the next strike, deep in the void. Where no star burned, the swarm gathered, millions of ships, blacker than night, sharper than blades. They filled the darkness like an endless storm. Their bodies pulsed with hunger. Their weapons hissed with power. At their heart, something greater stirred, a shape so vast it blotted out suns. A mind so powerful it could drown empires. The leader of the swarm had awakened. Its voice spread through the void, a hiss that shook even the strongest minds. The humans have risen. Good. Their fire will feed us once more. The enemy had returned not only to fight, they had returned to finish what they started. The galaxy had seen wars before. Civilizations had risen and fallen. Empires had clashed. Warlords had burned worlds, but nothing matched this. In the void between stars, the black swarm gathered in numbers beyond counting. Their ships blotted out light, their shadows stretching across systems. They came like a tide, endless and hungry. Facing them stood Earth's forgotten fleet, steel titans, 500,000 years old. Ships that were not only machines but souls. Humanity bound in metal and fire, ready once more to fight. At the center, the great flagship of Earth glowed with power. Admiral Kalen stood on its bridge, eyes hard, voice steady. "This is the last stand," he said. "If we fall, the galaxy falls. If we win, the stars will live again," the swarm roared. The humans answered. The final war had begun. The swarm moved first. A wave of black ships poured forward, their weapons shrieking with energy that tore shields like paper. Entire asteroid belts shattered under their assault. The human fleet held. Their cannons burned like suns, missiles streaked like meteors, and beam weapons cut the void in rivers of light. The clash shook the stars themselves. Ships died by the hundreds. Explosions lit the void in colors no eye had seen in ages, but the swarm kept coming. For every one destroyed, 10 more appeared. They were endless. On Tyrannus, the Galactic Council watched in terror as the battle unfolded on their hollow screens. "We cannot sit idle," one leader cried. "If humanity falls, we are next," another answered. For the first time in millennia, the Council agreed. Fleets across the galaxy were ordered to move. Old rivals called uneasy truces. Even warlords bent their pride. The galaxy, long divided, was forced into unity. But the question remained. Would they arrive in time? Captain Zor stared at the battle from the ruins of his ship. His crew begged him to flee, to disappear into the outer void. But Zor only laughed a broken sound. "We chased this myth. We bled for it. Now we will end it here." He turned to his crew. "Ready the engines. If this is the end, we meet it with claws bared. We will strike with the humans, not hide like cowards." For once his officers did not argue. They knew death waited either way. Better to die in fire than in fear. The scavenger fleet, shattered but proud, turned back toward the storm Drask. The scavenger who had survived since the beginning watched in awe from within the human flagship. He had seen the preserved soldiers, the sleeping warriors bound in steel. Now he saw them awaken, pods opened, armor lit with ancient fire. Voices filled the ship's halls. Humanity was not only memory. Humanity was alive. Drask's voice trembled. "They are not ghosts. They are warriors." For the first time he felt not fear but hope. In the midst of battle, the swarm shifted. Their endless waves parted, revealing something greater. It was a ship, if it could be called that. A shape so vast it dwarfed moons. Its surface writhed as though alive. Its weapons glowed with suns trapped in chains. It was not only a ship. It was their leader, the swarm mind. Its voice spread across the void, dripping into every mind. "You cannot win. You are prey. You always were." Admiral Kalen stood firm. His voice answered back, steady and defiant. "We are humanity. We do not kneel." At Kalen's command, the deepest chambers of the flagship opened. There lay the final secret of Earth's fleet. Not only soldiers, not only minds, but the last true humans, preserved in cryogenic sleep, their bodies kept alive for 500,000 years. One by one, they awakened. Eyes opened, breaths drawn, hearts beating once more. Flesh and steel, memory and machine, humanity whole again. The fleet roared, not only with voices of metal but with voices of flesh. They had returned in full. With their awakening, the human fleet struck harder. Cannons ripped through the swarm, fighters darted like fireflies of death, and living soldiers commanded alongside their machine souls. The scavenger fleet, battered but burning with fury, threw itself into the fray beside them. Galactic reinforcements began to arrive, one by one, until dozens of species joined the storm. The void became a sea of fire. The swarm was vast, but for the first time, it faltered. The humans had turned the tide, but the swarm mind still lived. Its massive shape tore through human and alien fleets alike, its weapons devouring entire squadrons in a single strike. Kalen knew what had to be done. He ordered the flagship forward, straight into the heart of the enemy. Officers shouted protests. Soldiers begged to fight another way. But Kalen only smiled, weary and proud. "This is our duty. This is our purpose. Humanity sleeps no longer. Humanity stands." The flagship's engines roared. Its cannons blazed. It plunged into the swarm mind's core, carrying every weapon, every last fire it held. And then, in a single burst brighter than suns, it exploded. The swarm mind screamed. The swarm broke. The enemy was shattered. Silence fell across the void. The swarm scattered leaderless. Torn apart by the fury of Earth's fleet and the allies that had joined them, the galaxy breathed again. But the flagship was gone. Admiral Kalen was gone. His sacrifice had bought victory. Drask wept quietly among the survivors. Jor's broken laughter echoed in the ruins of his bridge. Across the galaxy, worlds cried out in relief. Humanity had saved them all. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy rebuilt. The fleets of Earth, though scarred, still stood. The soldiers, both flesh and steel, still lived. Kalen was gone, but his voice remained. His final message echoed through every ship, every station, every world. We are humanity. We do not vanish. We do not surrender. 500,000 years we slept. 500,000 years we endured. And when the stars called, we answered. The galaxy remembered, and for the first time in countless ages, hope filled the stars. Far from the galactic core, in the cold quiet of deep space, a single light flickered. It was a beacon, human in design. Carried away from the battle before the flagship fell, its message was simple. Humanity lives, and somewhere, in the endless night, other voices stirred. The story was not over. It had only just begun.